Welcome to What's My Thesis. I'm Javier Proenza, and today my guest is Saskia Bailey, art advisor in New York City. Although you used to live out here, which is when we met,
Yeah.
and you are very knowledgeable, which is one of the things that I wanted to have you on the show. You always know a lot more and a lot of things that maybe artists don't know. You do you still identify as an artist, or is that bad
Okay.
for business to be an artist art advisor?
Well, I mean, I would not introduce myself to a collector. Like, hi, Saskia Bailey. Like, they're like artist and art advisor. They're like, what the fuck? Get away from me. But no. um, yeah, no, I mean, I like personally, like, like not in a professional capacity, like I totally identify as an artist,
Okay.
like I studied like art in college. Like I went to Cooper Union. Like you definitely on your admissions essay there, you don't say that you're like, a hopeful art advisor. um,
But you
or
did,
maybe,
but at least you learned how to have a practice, so you understand that element
yes,
of being an artist, right? As
totally. And
opposed
there, yeah.
as
And
opposed
there,
to just a ruthless businesswoman that.
Right, exactly. No, I come from it like from actually like an artist perspective. Like the whole reason I got involved in the art business to begin with is because I graduated college,
uh
like fine art college, like at Cooper, and I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to like how does one have like a career?
yeah,
Like I know how to paint. I know how to like like do that and like have new ideas, like all this stuff that like practice involves. But like I just had no clue, and I was like, well, the best thing I could think of to do is maybe I'll go work in a gallery. And
yeah.
so that's like I come to it from that angle, which is maybe
And you worked at a space that did a lot of printmaking, and then I think you transitioned out on your way out of that into making prints. You've made prints with like Jonas Wood, like with big,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I worked as a gallery director for 3 years, maybe just a little bit over. I'm not very good at dates, but that's approximately correct.
Wait,
And like that was
that's the only gallery director job
no,
you've had. Okay, okay.
yeah, I can start at the beginning actually.
No,
So
you don't have to start all the way at the beginning,
actually,
but
it
go
might
ahead.
be meaningful to some people. Maybe. I mean, I'll be brief. Yeah. So
No, no,
I'm
I
born. No, I'm
sorry.
kidding.
My apologies. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Take as long as you want.
My grandparents' names were no, no, I'm just fucking with you. Um, no, so I graduated college and and I moved to California.
Hmm.
And this is like with every intention of being of just painting forever, right? And I after like several months I was like I feel completely unconnected, this is in LA, like to the whole like what is the art world, is this a big enormous thing, like I have no idea how this works professionally in terms of like marketing yourself, like how do I get a gallery show, like all these questions that a lot of people don't have answers to.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well maybe I'll just go work in a gallery, to figure out how this works, right? And so I tried. I had no gallery experience, obviously. I tried for about 8 months to get a job at basically every gallery in LA that was also around 7 years ago.
Hmm.
I applied to. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
like yeah, and sometimes like multiple times. And I just got, when I got something back, it was like, you have no experience, which was like the best possible response I got. It's like, oh,
Wait.
we responded. Yeah.
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 That was the highlight when you got an email.
Right. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm approaching this the wrong way. I'm just going to go volunteer my services like for free working in a gallery. And so I happened upon like an unpaid internship thing. Like I think it was through like one of those platforms, not Craigslist, but a bit up from that.
Hmm.
I forget it.
There's
And
there's
like,
steps
yeah.
up from
Well,
Craigslist. I did.
Craigslist is
I
like is a great like platform, like a basis, like for all kinds of things, right? But it's like there's also like a bunch of random shit on there. This was like a job focused platform, not
okay.
like let me take
Yeah,
photos
yeah.
of your feet for 20 bucks an hour, which is like what the Craigslist brand sort of is. Yeah, not to insult Craigslist.
So yeah,
Um,
definitely
yeah,
not a sponsor today. So
right. Yeah,
thank God.
no, not looking for that kind of work to help me like learn about how the art world is run. But yeah, so I saw this posting for Patrick Painter Gallery, which is not still located at Bergamot Station, but was then,
Hmm.
and unpaid internship, and I was like, great. So I went there. It's very easy to get an unpaid internship.
Yes, it's. I
Yeah.
found that to be true.
Um, yeah, and so I worked there unpaid for about 6 months, learned a lot, and then my the person who was the director at that gallery, who's now actually my best friend, this is how we met. She was like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here, and you eventually should too, but like maybe for you." you could just step into my job when I leave. And so I applied with a bunch of the other applicants, and I basically made the gallery director a really good deal. I was like, you can continue to pay me nothing for a couple months but then you have to give me like an actual, like above what the amount is like per month
Uh,
that you would pay like a director. And he agreed to it, which was great. So that was my first paid gallery job. And I spent about a year there and then was actively applying for other jobs. Um,
well,
and then I found yours.
I think that right there we're getting into like how you are a good negotiator even at work, because
What's a, thanks.
you're making pitches to your boss to get you set up. Then you started doing the you started a company called Aliso with a couple other people,
Yeah.
and then you started doing prints, and then you still do print projects like that, like
I mean, not no, not currently because that company is now dissolved. But what happened basically is like as I was working at this, I don't mind saying the name unless you do.
okay, no, I don't mind.
Okay, yeah, I was working at Cirrus Gallery and Cirrus Editions, which has been around since 1970, 71 in LA,
Uh,
as like a gallery and a print publisher, like a fine art prints and mobiles publisher. And yeah, I had the director's job there, and for about 3 years, give or take, I learned a lot about like both sides of that business. And basically, what happened is that me and my business partners in what would become my future print publication company, we'd go out for beers after work and have classic work complaints. And after a
mhm.
while, like there was this joke that developed. I was like, why don't we just like start our own thing? And then my two
Yeah,
partners were like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, I was kidding. And they were like, no, let's do that. And I was like,
our
oh,
lives
okay.
are miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really. Just like, fuck. Yeah. Um,
Not that working for Jean Milan is bad. I'm just mean like,
no, and I don't mean that
having that
either.
level of
Yeah.
job, because obviously starting your own company is a lot. You work for yourself as opposed to being an
Yeah.
employee. So that is the step up. Not no shade
Right.
on Jean. I love Jean.
No, and I love John too, and I learned so much from him.
Yeah, yeah.
And like since we're saying the name, like it's actually some like a shout out I would like to give. And like,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Shout
I
out
like
to him
really like
too.
no, yeah, I learned like so much of like what set me up later in my career from John and like uh yeah, like I actually got my start also as an advisor from
Hmm.
working from John in a sort of like indirect way. I basically figured out that if I was on the phone with people that I would just get to do whatever I wanted all day as long as I was on the phone with clients. And I discovered organically that I really liked these people and I really liked talking to people about how they see things and what they bought. So starting the company, becoming like not really an advisor quite yet, both of those things had their germination in working at Cirrus.
Yeah.
And then I got fired.
Well, you started a competing company underneath.
Yeah, which is what Jean said when he kissed me on both cheeks and said that I can't work there anymore.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I was really complimented by because I'd never imagined that he would find me competition. This person that
Yeah,
prints with like
yeah.
Ed Richet and like John Baldessari, like from back in the day, I would think that like little of me and my little fledgling print publishing company was like competition was actually like kind of just like insane and incredible.
Well,
It's like
technically,
wow.
he kicked you out and he crushed you in terms of
Mm.
competition because the company is no more.
Yeah,
Um,
right. He's still there. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You learned something about longevity from him. What's it called? So okay, so then I don't know that like necessarily. As silly as this sounds. I think that maybe there are people that don't know what an art advisor is, right?
Okay.
Because it's
Yeah.
just it's two words put
It's also
together.
used very loosely in our industry. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah,
can you give us a little insight onto that?
sure. So specifically, like what I do
Hmm.
is I advise. Like, let me try not to use the same word in the definition.
Yeah. Well, you also have a
I
love for linguistics, and you're
yeah,
very knowledgeable in the obscure work of Noam Chomsky, like his
yeah.
linguistic stuff,
Can we just
which
talk
is
about
hilarious.
Chomsky instead?
Yeah.
Like we could. No, it's
Yeah,
okay.
no, we definitely
Yeah,
could. That could be your
let's.
topic. But I feel like
Maybe not this
people
time.
I
It's not
feel like you're a
useful, really.
resource that people could use, you know.
I'm not a
So,
resource for Noam Chomsky access,
no.
like or there's information about like yeah, that's there are other people you can talk to about that. Let's
Yeah.
think about your listeners. No, so an art advisor, like I'll just tell you specifically what I do, and then we can sort of like back define it if you need. How's that sound?
Sure. That sounds good.
Cool. Like I help people um, exercise their tastes by buying art, and that involves brokering the deal. So figuring out what the client wants, which is like a huge part of my process. Like for about 3 months, the way that I do it, we don't buy anything. They're not allowed to buy anything. I just basically do what I call taste checks, which is a series of phone calls where I show them images side by side. And
Hmm.
like they have to pick one, and then we do this over and over and over again until, because people, it's, there are all kinds of ways in which people don't want to show you their taste, even if they trust you and like you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, like after I really feel like I understand them, I produce a report on what I believe is their taste. Like, so an example of some of these things that I say to them is, "You have a fetish fetish," or
A what?
"You a finish fetish."
Finish fetish. So you like the
Yeah,
finish of something. Okay.
right. Like if something looks as if it might be halfway complete, there's no way you're buying it, kind of thing. So
Because finish is also a people. So
oh no, yeah. Good to clarify. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
not, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, there are all types of interests. No, but yeah,
Yeah.
no. To be clear, like it's like I really enjoy like doing taste reports and really listening to people. That's like something I
Yeah.
really love about my job. Is like there are all these ways. I feel like the world sort of makes people embarrassed of their taste or
Yeah, you
afraid that, yeah.
you told me a story of like getting like you also get people to put like playlists together for you so you can kind of see.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
kinds of creative ways of sort of getting in there, like sort of
Yeah.
asking the questions that you don't really know someone well enough to ask, but in an indirect way.
It's
No,
a,
I use like lots of tactics. Someone's like, I'm like, show me your guilty pleasures. Show me, that's
what's the most like the guilty pleasure that tickled you the most? Or
this
can you
guy
not
that
disclose that?
I can disclose that. I mean, I
Okay,
won't say
okay.
who, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
um, this guy that yeah, I advise. He's actually like I try not to play favorites, but he's probably like one of the best people that I will ever advise. I imagine like he's just like a really
Mm.
incredible dude, incredible person, and really sophisticated taste for knowing for having no art history education like whatsoever. Especially, it's like amazing. He fucking loves Justin Bieber,
Oh wow.
like loves
Wow.
it. Like he was telling me stuff about Justin Bieber that I, with a little sister that, grew up like Liz just blasting it, like didn't know, you know.
That's
And Boyfriend
amazing.
is his favorite song. And if you look at this guy, he's almost 7 feet tall. And he's sort of menacing looking. And it was just like, man, I like like not menacing. Can I just update that?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
He's imposing and impressive looking.
yeah,
Yeah.
physically imposing, impressive. Does that
Yeah.
mean you want me to cut out the the first description?
No, it's fine. You can, I mean, yeah.
Okay. Well, that what I'm hearing from that is like you actually get people to reveal stuff. Like so there is a little bit of like you're like is it fair to say a little bit of like a taste therapist?
That's actually a really, I'm going to use that. That's a really good way of describing it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I like the way you said it too. What was the first thing you said? You said it tastes something. I was like, "Ooh, wow."
Oh, I help people exercise their tastes. Is that
Yes.
it?
That is
Yeah.
yes, yes. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this is how somebody that sells art talks. So so take note, guys, because yeah, that's like you just have a very concise pitch of what you do. That's like, I mean, who doesn't get excited about that service, right? Like especially because. I mean
Yeah.
that's really I need one for the podcast. We'll have to brainstorm one later.
Oh, I'll do one.
Off-
I'll do a taste consultation for free if you want, anytime. Yeah. I actually really enjoy doing this, and you're a friend. So,
Oh no, I meant in terms of like helping me on the branding and marketing side of it. You know,
oh,
like
let's do that.
how
That
to
too.
pitch the show. But
Yeah.
so cool. So then like. Yeah, what does this look like day to day? You've already kind of talked a little bit about
Yeah.
the phone, but you are like incessantly busy, and you have a drive to do things. Like you did a bunch of stuff before we interviewed today, and I
Yeah.
get I get
I
overwhelmed
pushed you
doing
off.
this
Yeah.
show. No. We don't need
I
to
didn't
disclose
cheat.
that. But what's it called? Yeah, you're like constantly on phones and stuff like that. You're traveling a lot. We saw each other at Art Basel Miami. We got to hang out.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, and at
We
the
did
Made in
it.
LA opening, was that before? I just, yeah, I lose track
No,
of.
I didn't. I
Yeah.
didn't see you at the Made in LA, but you were in town that
Oh, and
that
we met up.
for that. Yeah, we met.
Yeah,
Can I
which
say
is
that you're the person who took me to see the those galleries? Can I name drop them?
oh yes, no, I love those
Okay.
galleries. Absolutely,
Okay.
name drop
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you took us to what's it called? Night Gallery in
Hmm.
Francois Guibali. You're actually the one who taught me how to say Francois Guibali.
Yes. I was like, well, yeah, no, thank God. I was like really into French literature growing up. Just like
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, you took us there and like we kind of got to see you in action. So you'll like go and meet with galleries and sort of look at the pieces and sort of discuss the prices. So that's the
yeah,
side that I've seen, which is very exciting as from an artist standpoint to have access to, because you
yeah.
get to see a little bit of that business, like how people, like
Right.
I like one of the things that was noticed is that even though we were invited and treated very well, no business discussions were had in front of us. Like
That's
it's
actually a good
all
thing to point out. Yeah.
yeah,
And that was
it's
like, yeah,
go ahead.
it's behind like closed doors, right? And it's like, I mean, I think like some of the, that's like a very like a professional norm, right? Like I wasn't necessarily going in there walking and like worried about you and my good friend Daniel, who's an artist who's with us, right? Like was
Yeah,
like like I wasn't. It's just sort of something that was handled like really expertly by
we
William, the
didn't
director
even
of Night Gallery.
notice.
He was like, yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
that's exactly the thing, right? It's like these
yeah,
subtle
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like social things. It was like totally appropriate for us to like walk around. He's like, let's go and just, like see something in the back, which
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the art world means you might go and see something amazing in the back, which I did.
Oh,
That wasn't
nice.
out yet, which was like yeah, like but also that it's sort of like the conversational equivalent in the art world of like stepping out for a cigarette. It's a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
polite way to leave a conversation without making anybody feel awkward and like know that you're coming back. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah. And that's like yeah. Yeah. I think
No,
yeah.
it was such a thrill to get to experience that side. Like because you like as an artist, you usually don't just get to walk in and see like people doing the
Right.
business of the art selling. Like so okay, so then like let's use that as an example. So you went, you saw a bunch of pieces, and you
Yeah.
have an idea of what your clients' tastes are, right?
Right. Yeah.
So then take me from there. What's the
Yeah.
process?
So like after like a sort of taste check thing, like as an advisor, like to the ones you understand the client's taste, your job becomes well exercising it to be like super little about it, but basically brokering deals. And so with brokering these deals is basically make sure that your client isn't getting price gouged. So there's a lot of research involved, like sort of also like trust relationships are really important. So galleries like Night Gallery and Gabali is like they're both excellent at sort of like just giving it to you straight. Like
Yeah.
I had to learn like very quickly sort of like when something it's like a trust basis thing. So once a client especially has bought one or two things from a gallery, they're not incentivized to screw with you in any way on what the price is or like, and most
Yeah.
galleries really don't. Like I've actually had very few experiences where like somebody is just like completely full of it and giving you some sort of like double the markup price without saying it's on secondary. By the way, secondary market means from a collector that has bought it and is trying to sell it through the gallery
Oh,
backwards.
okay.
Yeah. Which,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. Which
Wait,
is like yeah, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Which is
I'm
like,
not,
which is a common courtesy that like we know if for example, you're a collector, right? And your taste has changed or you got divorced or you just don't want the piece anymore. Like the polite like professional practice is to go back to the gallery that you bought it from and say, I would like to let go of this. That's what is like universally regarded as the right thing to do, as opposed to putting it at auction
mm.
or, you know, yeah, you want to give like
So
the, yeah.
how does that? So does the gallery and the artist get a split on that second sale? Is
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So then that is actually
Yes.
much more noble.
I,
What
right.
it actually has come up since we're already talking about auctions. Um, so I'm confused. I obviously am very new to all of the money business side of it. But someone told me recently about an instance where someone was upset because somebody was taking their work to market and it was growing in
Mm.
value. So like, what are the pitfalls of going to auction that can either help or affect an artist's reputation? Because
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think that is the concern, right? Like, go ahead.
Mm. I just get some clarity on it. So when you say taking it to market, what
No,
you meant
taking it to auction. Sorry, yeah,
auction. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like little piggy goes to market. I was just, I don't know, I
I'm a
just like done
newbie,
bought me
man.
around. No, no, I'm not laughing at you. I was just laughing
No,
at myself.
you're
Yeah.
more than welcome to giggle at me.
Yeah. So the concern with, like from an artist perspective about your work going to auction is when it hammers. And hammering means when a sale closes for under what it was originally sold for. So, for
Okay.
example, your gallery sold this painting to collector X for $10,000, and then it goes to auction a couple years later and it sells for five, or even worse,
Yeah.
it gets passed up. And
Wow.
auction houses, and like the reason that auction houses are actually, and their records are the only publicly accessed form of looking at value over time,
Yeah.
right? So like bad auction results can scare people from investing in your work, like
Yeah.
collectors, you know? Yeah.
But
Um,
can it hurt you if it goes the other way? Are there
no, it's
scenarios?
a yeah.
Is it usually a good thing when it goes in the other direction, like when you make a
Yes.
profit? Okay.
Yeah, it's usually like in the media, it is a good thing. But then there's also like not to get too economic here, but like there is, you know, if it, for example, you know your last auction was uh, you sold a painting initially for $5,000, and then it auctioned a year later the same painting for 10, and then all of a sudden a year later it's going for 1 million. That creates, it goes like this, right? If it were a graph,
Oh,
and that sort of thing, like I think what people like to see, this is actually something really good to maybe just say about collectors, though, like a lot of people like maybe wouldn't consider, because not a lot of people are like in the top 5% of wealth, or 10%. Not that all collectors need to be, but most of them are.
mhm.
Like they basically, like from an investment perspective, I'm trying to figure out where to start here because there's like so much to say. For them, having a paint, like an artist's work do that, right? Is threatening in a sense, because this piece that they have on their wall, um, if it's not perceived as continuing to go up the market, like you want to see something like this, right?
Oh, so you want
Like, you know, so
steadier
gradual. So
growth.
like, so even if it goes down, so it goes up to 1 million at auction, this person's work, and then for that area of the market, the only place it can go is down, which creates a misperception that the market is falling because it can't, you know, if things were to like
Yeah,
indefinitely
yeah.
increase at the same rate, no one would ever be able to afford the artist's work. It just doesn't happen that way. So like,
Yeah.
you know, even like a sharp drop down, like it's like for 500,000, say it goes like halfway down the spike. This is so
Yeah, yeah.
dry.
No,
Like,
no,
yeah,
no, no. This is exactly. I mean, we talk about a lot of stuff. This is fascinating because I just that makes sense. So technically, what you're saying is that art never really plateaus. Like
yeah, very infrequently,
yeah.
like
So
very
then,
infrequently.
especially if it makes it like if it makes that big of a gain from like let's say 10 grand for your
Yeah,
example, very loosely, we're not gonna hold you to you. It's not
right.
financial advice, right? But typically, if it does that big of a spike, it too quickly,
Yeah,
it's unsustainable.
right. Like I mean, and then you could use this like a very similar perspective to talk about stocks if you wanted to,
Yeah.
sort of, which I
Well,
know less about. But like people, like collectors, compare the stock market to the art market all the time, which is interesting and also like sort of inaccurate. But it sort of works this like supply demand, like, you know, perception of
yeah.
value. Those like those tenets, all
Well,
like
it's
definitely apply here.
I think it's a good example. So like what stocks can do that art can't is that you can split a stock up, right?
Yeah.
So a company that has their stock at like a really, let's say a stock is like at $1,000 a share, it makes it
Right.
hard to purchase that share. What you can do is you can double the amount of stocks and have the value of them. So then now the stock
Right.
is like, if you do a 2-to-1 split, you end up with two shares at half the
Mm,
price. And then
right.
sometimes, like recently, or not recently, but in history, Apple one time did like a 7-to-1 split. But you can't
Mm,
do that with art. So it looks like if the object
right.
hits a certain market rate, that's
Yes.
insane. So
Yeah.
no, and by the way, please stop apologizing for how dry this stuff is. This is the exactly your expertise that we're here
Oh
to
no,
hear
great.
from.
I wanted to like
Yeah,
check in with you for your viewers if
no,
this was like something
no,
that,
no, no,
yeah,
no, 100%.
yeah,
This is, I mean, look, my viewers are gonna have to just appreciate that I want to learn this.
Full
You know,
respect. Yeah. No.
and that's why I'm having you here, because I think that they probably also want that.
I mean,
So
I find it fascinating. And when I first found out about like I first figured out like how this works and I had it explained to me, I was like, what? You know?
so then,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I mean it's mind blowing. So okay, so then or it's just like it's so reasonable and logical, but if you don't know it, you make assumptions, right? And you're like
Yeah.
you make the
There's
assumption
also
that
something else. Yeah.
go ahead, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. There's also
No,
something
no,
else I
no.
would like to like make sure before we get away from this topic that I would like to like share about auctions that I definitely didn't know before I was like in on this side of the industry, is that like auction records, like there's this sort of like uh basic, maybe naive perception that like they are like just like the record of something's value, right?
Yeah.
But galleries, especially for artists that whose markets become very big, you know, or even like medium big, or like they do it different levels of participating or not participating in the control of auction results. And like what that looks like is then basically calling up, you know, either investing themselves in bidding something up if it's failing to protect the
Hmm.
artist market, or getting groups of collectors or even groups of collectors independently like pooling together to make sure
Yeah.
that like, you know, because they all have a painting by an artist, like they need the market not to drop, and so that they bid it up and then sometimes even agree to buy it. So like there's like, you know,
No,
it's
that's an
not.
that yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah.
the guy who owns most of the world's Warhols? Do you know what that guy's name is?
Most of the world's Warhols.
Yeah, I know that
I
there's one dude that has the corner market corner, and
huh.
this is how collectors can use the I mean, I saw this on a YouTube video, so take it with a grain of salt.
No,
But
it sounds like a great YouTube video.
well, this is also a YouTube video, so um, but
Hell yeah.
so what's it called? The like basically he has like I don't know like a ridiculous percentage of it, and then he always go whenever there's an auction, he always goes and bids insane amounts of
Yeah.
money on it to keep the whole auction, the whole collection
Right.
up, and then he can dictate the prices, because if you are doing private sales, you can
Hmm.
sell it forever whatever you want, and it's not going to affect
Right.
the value of the rest of your thing. So it's just an interesting thing, like how big money
Yeah.
works in these spaces. But well, then can you get a little bit more in how in like how galleries sort of sustain themselves? Because a lot of people recently have been talking, a lot of artists have recently been talking about it being a business. And having been a gallery director, I know in Cirrus that they get a lot of revenue from the printmaking, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so it's a print shop and art gallery, but that's a
Right,
that
which is not the standard. Yeah, that's like
yeah,
for like like an ordinary gallery. That's an unusual thing, right?
but
To have
but
that revenue source. Yeah,
yeah, but in terms of sustainability, I mean, Cirrus has been around forever, so
I know. Yeah,
it's just an
totally.
interesting one to highlight. You know what I mean? Because but how does it
Yeah.
typically work? How does it typically work? And are you going to institutions like are you buying at Werner, and Gagosians and those places? Do you
I've
or
never actually like negotiated a purchase between with Werner, but I have with Gagosian.
okay?
And I yeah
So you're
yeah
so you're buying from mega galleries as well.
yeah. No, I've had like
Yeah.
probably like to be honest, like the few like the volume of the highest volume of transactions that I do, which reflects like both my clients' price points and also like their taste. You know,
Mhm.
it's like is from galleries that are at the Night Gallery, Gabali Gallery
Yeah,
level.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, but also these people have like more money to spend too. So like most of my like probably the like half my transactions would be galleries at like what you call sort of mid to high level, and
Mhm.
then like the highest like yeah, there have been pieces that were purchased by some of the galleries that I mentioned besides Werner. Yeah.
Is it harder to, because the you see memes and stuff about how galleries don't just sell to anyone? Is that one of the things that
Access.
access to
That's
because
a big
like
thing that advisors do. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
also so there's basically like taste understanding, and then and then access is a major thing, right? Because like a lot of people, you know, I'm not actually sure that advisors would be a thing at all if it weren't for how difficult it is to gain access. You
uh
sort of need someone to communicate with, you know, like that knows how to introduce a person because with a lot of because we're talking about is like a finite resource, right? There's one painting or there's 12 paintings by one artist. This is not something that can be duplicated. So
Yeah.
like it's so you have like there if there for example like a show of 10 paintings that are very high in demand, you have 40 people that are just begging you. Like how do you discern? And like
Yeah.
advisors, I think they cut sort of the time. They help, instead of like the person literally writing to you and you have to go through like all these emails. It's like this person has an advisor and they know what to
Yeah.
say, or they have
Yeah.
relationships with people that like,
Yeah.
they're like, okay, this is like these sales normally go well. These have been placed in good collections. By good collections, I mean collections that follow the rules. One of them being don't put it at auction, like without offering it back to us. Certain like things like
Okay.
that, right?
Okay. So,
Or like don't sell it at all, which is like a big deal. Like the galleries want to put things in collections where people genuinely. I really believe that this is mostly the thing. Like people genuinely like want like love it. Because
yeah.
as a
Yeah.
gallery, when you have choices of who to sell to, like I mean, I'm owning a print publishing company, like as I did, like with the Liso editions, like I was like, I wanted to place things because most of the people that work in galleries, they really actually do like art and they
Yeah. Yeah.
care about like what
Yeah.
happens to people's markets. There are always like weird people that try and come in and like think that it's like an investment thing, think they can make money, which I also think is hilarious because art is actually probably the worst investment in terms of like financial portfolios that you could make because it doesn't cash flow, right? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's actually like statistically, like no matter what you buy, very, very likely to decrease in value while it sits on your wall. And so instead of putting your money into a charity that you like or giving it to your kids or making an investment in your own business or a friend's startup, like that's something that a collector does. That's something I would actually really like to make sure that is understood in this
Yeah.
interview
Yeah.
too. Is that like what a person is doing with their disposable income when they invest in a piece of art? If you think about all the choices about where to put their money that they're not making, it's actually pretty incredible.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like they get tax write-offs for a charity, which wealthy people need,
Yeah.
will
Yeah. For
need,
sure.
want, and like or, yeah, um, and also like they're not investing in a business. They're not
It's the difference between trying to buy a piece of property, just a piece of land, versus a piece of like actual like constructed
right.
house where you immediately have liquid cash flow. Whereas, I mean, it's a
Yeah,
bad analogy because you would have to dump more money into the land to make it return. But like
yeah,
what you're
no.
saying, it makes
Actually,
sense
it's a
in
good
terms.
analogy. Sometimes not.
Thank you.
Property is a major thing that people put in their money into. Like the
Yeah.
people that I've advised in the past, or even like advise now. Like I get questions sometimes, which I inform them rapidly. I'm not totally qualified to answer. Usually, what I do then in those situations, like let's bring your financial advisor on the phone so we
Yeah.
can talk about this as a group. Just to take care of them. But like it's like when someone's like, well, I've got this, this like X amount I've allocated this, like let's say $200,000 this year to buying art or something, this is how much is going to the stock market. This is how much is going into like properties I want to buy. I'm just an art advisor. So like
Yeah.
I always give them my opinion when it's asked for because I have
Mm.
opinions, but like, but they're also, uh, taking care of people and like their own interests, right? Of just
Yeah.
like this is a conflict of interest, you realize, and so we need to bring your financial advisor on to talk about this if it's really for you, so that you feel like this is an open space. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can we talk a little bit about art valuation then? In
Mm-hmm.
this, especially because it seems like a good
Sure.
transition since we just talked about how inefficient. I mean, it's inefficient if you're not money laundering. I'm kidding.
What is inefficient?
Buying art.
I'll make you say it. No.
No, yeah, yeah.
um,
Buying art is inefficient. No, I mean that makes sense. Like in terms of things that can give you a return on investment. So it's
uh,
more,
it's
it's
about the
more.
art actually. It
Yeah,
makes you feel
yeah,
something, right? That's what I love
yeah,
about this. Like even collectors that say that they like I've actually had like some people I really love that I advise now. They're just like they came to me like I'm investment focused. And I'm like, okay. Like I do my like taste check
yeah.
and like I actually don't believe them. And here's
Really?
why. Yeah.
Why?
It's because people you can like come out like I got the data, like here's my research, here's like my inside information, like I've got like this great network of like advisors, other collectors that like we all share a lot of information with each other. So I can give them some good data on like why something's a great investment. They will not buy it if they don't like it.
Yeah,
like
that makes
like
sense.
it's never happened to me, and I haven't, I guess maybe like over time, like, once I'm doing this for like 40 years, maybe you can have me back on and like maybe that will have happened, but it hasn't happened so far. And I do quite a, like, I do a lot of this, just on a
Yeah.
week by week basis. So it's like, I was really happy to learn that, right? Because there's this like sort of like Satan, like icon I had in my head, or maybe everybody has an of like, the investment focused art investor.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
just like trying to like, flip it around and like,
Really
I don't know, like,
cynical. Yeah.
well, yeah, just like some like thinks it's like shorting a stock or something, and
Yeah.
like there's like the art bro, like the whole thing. But I find that when it comes down to it, like it's people, they really don't like, they won't buy something. I'll be like, you should buy this if you say you're investment focused. You should buy this, and like I hate it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, there it is. Now we can
Yeah.
like talk about like let's get it. This is how we're gonna get in there. Like let's look at what you actually like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where the art therapy sounds like it begins. Or
yeah. Although
taste
yeah,
therapy, taste
yeah,
therapy. So then, okay, so then like that example of like the piece that is a good investment. What makes a piece like whether or not like if we were stripping away my taste and we were just going straight of like I'm a bloodthirsty uh
right.
I'm De Boers and I
Cool.
have
Yeah.
I traffic in blood diamonds and stuff like that.
Yeah, money, you love it, and you're
Yeah,
trying to use
money, I
art to
love
get it.
it,
Yeah,
and I don't care about beauty, and I don't care about like
right.
what makes something a good investment. Like, how do you determine that? Because that
Mm,
that is not only baffling to people that are not artists and
yeah.
get enraged with bananas being peeled. I'm using that as a reference because it's so easy to
Well,
just
I
describe.
mean, I guess,
Well,
yeah.
not bananas being taped up to a wall, but
I knew,
then
yeah,
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 but also artists, I think they just don't understand what makes like what is it that
yeah.
makes what's his name, Mark Bradford, an
Mm,
art, or what makes Damien Hirst a
wow.
millionaire artist, 350 millionaire. How like
You
what
know,
how do things get valued like that?
specifically, I don't. So like Mark
No, 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 no,
Bradford is
not
someone whose career I know a lot about, but like I don't know if I can answer that question. Like I
yeah.
actually don't. You know what I mean? I mean, there are answers, but I'm not your girl for that. Damien Hirst, I've got theories, but also like I'm less qualified to talk about him and his market than I am about Mark Bradford, who I know much more about. Uh,
Okay. Well, just in
but
general, and
yeah,
we don't
just in
have
general.
to. I didn't mean to name drop people that you might actually
No,
know.
it's fine. No, it's okay. I just wanted to be like clear. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that. I would love to like if you find a person that's like I got those. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But your general question, just to be like precise about it, is basically like how does a person, an artist, like Mark Bradford, we can just use him as an example. Like he was like sweeping up end papers in his mom's like hair salon like shop, right? And I know that the end papers is one of my favorite Mark Bradford stories. Those
Mm,
end papers, he like started gluing them together, and then he took like a sandblaster or just maybe literally sandpaper and started sanding them away when he was like a teenager, which is like
mm.
the basis for the rest of his work. Like how does somebody in that situation with very few like fast track to the art world advantages, I would say, become what he is now?
Oh well, specific. Well, my
Or
no, I mean my specific question is more like
okay.
when you find a piece that you're saying like, hey, you should buy this. This is a good investment.
Oh,
What
yes.
defines the good investmentness of it?
Okay.
Devoid
Thank
of the
you.
aesthetics. Sorry, no, I took
Yes.
it. I got us distracted by bringing up those other people.
I was like, ooh, Mark Bradford. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
Mark Bradford.
No, who
No, that's
doesn't?
it. I can
Yeah.
totally answer that question. Yeah.
Okay.
So I do like a lot of comparative data that's very like private. Like I literally have an Excel sheet. Other people do it differently. They just remember. I like to write shit down. So basically, like when I hear a lot of people talking about a specific artist's work, people that don't know each other. This is like very important because the art world is
Mm.
very small. Like in that interview that you sent me that I loved, like a previous episode of this podcast with a woman that I don't remember her name. What was yeah.
Tita
Anyway,
Whitney, I
she
think.
also yeah the art world was very small. And I thought that was a really really good key point.
Yeah.
You know, um, because it's an advantage to artists and like and everybody really, because it's like based on personal relationships. So you can use the data from personal relationships, which I do, without sharing it with anybody, and get sort of a pulse on what is being discussed and who gets excited about what artist before that's a public thing. And by public thing, I mean even shows in galleries. You know, like you like hearing that somebody might be, excuse me, about to have like a museum show in a couple weeks from some contact that you trust. You know,
Uh,
and all these pieces of information, sort of amalgamating them and comparing them across like social circles. So I actually draw these network trees. So
uh,
there's like this like art bro group over here, and then there's this like museum donor group over here. And when I see things happening in these spaces where I know that these people don't talk to each other, and they're
yeah,
mentioning the same artist around the same time, that's when I tell the people that I advise, what do you think of this work? You know,
yeah,
if you're since you're investment focused or since you want to focus more on something that doesn't lose value for whatever reasons, go towards that. So it's privatized information. You don't share the source, but you can share what's being said, and it's based on trust.
yeah,
Um, that being said, any art advisor that would tell you that they know that something is going to double in value or increase in value is lying. And that's insane because you cannot predict what's going to happen. So
yeah,
saying something is like likely to go up is very different from this will go up, you got to get it, like the sexy language that like some people want to hear, people that
yeah,
aren't clients for me, vice versa. You know what I mean? Yeah, that wouldn't like my style. Like that's something that like you cannot promise, like make those promises at all.
yeah,
And that's an important part of just like being a person in the world and like entropy, you know. You can say, yeah, I could like, I don't give percentage points or specific numbers, but I do say sometimes like I wouldn't be surprised if, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
this was like something that did very well for you.
yeah,
Also, there are basic rules. Like if you can pay under 50% for something, when you buy it under 50% of retail, which is what the retail price is, what the gallery will charge you, then you can be risky with your purchases because you've already paid under 50% of what it costs at a given time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you track collections to see like your own collections of your? Or you have like a spreadsheet and you kind of give them reports? Is that how that works?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Like when they ask for them, actually, like the collections I advise, like they don't really. Actually, I thought that they would care, but they don't really care. I used to send out like reports of it's like, whoa, look at this performance, and like, and they were just like, uh huh. I'm like, did you see my email? And they're like, yeah. Anyways, yeah, like, so, which is kind
Well,
of
at least
lovely.
you're
But
excited about it.
well, yeah, no, I mean, it's just like, yeah, I mean, I love projects like that, but also like it sort of for me like meant something that I didn't really. Uh, it confirmed for me something I'd like a hope about the art world, right? Is that like
Mm,
people like that the value they get out of art is something personal and maybe and philosophical, and like in like
yeah,
walking
yeah,
past it, or even just knowing that they have it when they get bored of what's in their house and they can switch it out of storage and like move it into their new space. Like that sort of stuff is like really job affirming for me. This is less
yeah. No,
useful.
for sure.
Yeah, like I think like yeah.
Yeah, stop critiquing yourself.
I just want to help. Like
I know, I know. I totally appreciate that. Okay, so then you kind of, so like, let's say I'm an artist and in fact, sort of like, let's say that artist that you listen to. I think the one that I sent you was Tita Whitney.
yes, thank you.
So yeah, she's awesome, and she's just that.
Yeah,
I also kind of wanted you to be aware of her, but
she's
she just had a show at Sidecar, which is the Night Gallery's new
yeah.
project space. Yeah.
Oh, good
So,
for her.
yeah, yeah. So okay, let's say you're at the beginning of her career as she described it on that episode,
Right.
right? She like just kind of getting your first shows. What would an artist in that position without like
Mm.
maybe you don't have mentors, what would they wanting to look for, expect? What could be mismanaged? What could be what is good management? What is
Oh, great
bad
question.
management?
Yeah, from representation or potential representation, right?
Yeah, if like how
Yeah,
do I look out for myself as an
totally.
artist that is getting
Yeah.
opportunities? Because dude, sometimes I think that one of the most frightening things is to have those doors open to you because then you're like, oh shit,
Absolutely.
what do I do? What
Yeah.
do I do? You
Well, it's like a
know?
closed space before that, right? It's just like you and your work, and that's it. And you're like, well, I could use some more money and maybe some
Yeah.
support. And like, I would love people to see this, but like, that's like very contained environment. It's very scary. I have a lot to say about this, actually. I would say that the main thing is like, as an artist, like looking at representation, like what that is a business partnership. So galleries take 50% of what you make, right? Which means you get the other 50. That's a 50-50 equity split if you're going to call a gallery relationship a business, right? And the business being the management um, and protection of your career. That's what it's about. That's what
Hmm.
both parties are interested in, right? And so, like,
Yeah.
in these cases, like, I find when I speak to artists, like about this sort of thing, that a lot of them, whatever stage in their careers that they are, like, you know, like very successful and never have to worry about money ever again, to like people that really just want to figure out how to get a show or how do you get representation in the first place. Something that is missing from all these stories often is artists not understanding this as a business partnership,
Hmm.
you know, with equal split. So like you have to like something I suggest to people all the time is make a list. Like make a like two lists. One of like you writing out everything that you bring to the table, which is not just your art. You know, it could also be your network. Maybe you know a lot of artists that you know the gallery also wants to get access to, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, maybe you have you've had some sales, you know, like from some sales from like big collections without the gallery. Those are also assets. So these don't have to even be private. Like, this is for you privately as an artist, right? And then the other list, which I think is the most important, is like ideally, what do you want them to give you from this business partnership? Like things like, do you want to have a show every year? You know, or yeah, exploring a show every like 1 to 2 years. Like, what's the show frequency? You know,
Yeah.
if like, do you want a collector list? This is something that artists don't know how to ask for often from galleries. Like, you're entitled, I believe, you know, and like lots of galleries will feel different ways about this, but the best ones, I think, are not ones that will like not just give you a list of like what collections you're being placed in. And it's not to contact them or like do deals around them. Some galleries, I've heard stories of them saying like, well, I'm not going to give you a list of the collections that we placed you in because then you'll just like do it without me, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, like you need to be able to say like, you know, like where these things are going. And also so you can engage with your collectors in a way that you and your clientele feel comfortable with, like sending thank you cards, for example. Like, this person's made an investment. Like, you want to include them in your Christmas roster. Like, by the way, like, I've looked at your collection for a long time and I'm so proud to be part of it. Thanks so much for your support. Like, that's some maintenance that like totally you could do easily in your career as an artist that would really like help you maintain those relationships that the gallery gets for you because that is their job. Also,
Yeah.
like, if your gallery is like, are they going to do studio visits? Are they sending curators? Is museum placement a focus? You know, these things I've heard artists say like after they get represented by galleries, you know, are not being done. And then they're sort of in this weird position where they're like, okay, I'm on their roster, but nothing that I thought this meant is happening. But they have no grounds because this wasn't discussed
Yeah.
at that point of representation when it should have been. And a lot of galleries do avoid contracts with artists specifically to avoid having to, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
having to
No,
exact on some of these things because it's a tall order because some galleries take on too many artists and that, you know, they're just trying to like, yeah, I don't think it's malicious. I just think that it's important. Like, think of yourself as a co-founder in the business that is your career with your
yeah.
gallery. Yeah.
What are some things that you've seen galleries do to watch out for you for people to watch out for that might actually like
Hmm.
when is a gallery being derelict in its duty
Oh,
to
well,
you?
the biggest one
C-
is ignoring artists, right?
okay.
So if you've been on the roster for several years, and the director or no one comes to your studio, that's a big
Yeah.
one, right? So if like, you know, you just like, if you feel like you wait, like, you know, like you're wondering what they're doing for you, that's like the biggest sign, because like just crazy neglect. Like, if you are the person that has to call them all the time and be like, what's going on, that is a sign that you should probably seek representation elsewhere,
And
and
how would you go about doing that? Like going
yeah,
to someone. How is that handled? And then I do want to get back to
yeah,
that to some other things that could be not great about with the. But like,
yeah.
how do you start opening yourself up to other? You just kind of build
With your
relationships
network, I would say,
with
like,
your
right. So
network.
like assuming this is also like all predicated on the fact that you know other artists and are basically a social person and engage with them or have like friends. You don't have to have a lot of friends. You don't have to be the most popular artist in the room, right? Like popularity and being an artist are not like they're not like comorbid traits is like a terrible way of describing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
like I feel like asking around delicately only with people that you trust. Don't ask your clients. Don't complain about this to anybody that interfaces
Mm,
with your gallery. That's like a very unprofessional thing to do,
yeah.
um, and not just a bad idea. But yeah, asking other artists like, hey, like, how do you like your representation? You know,
Yeah.
like, are you satisfied, dissatisfied? Because another like a way that a lot of galleries like source which artists they're going to pick up next, because they're always looking up to pick up new talent, is actually taking recommendations from artists already in their program. You
Mm,
know, and if you don't know artists in programs that you respect, go and meet them. Like, go and support. Like, maybe look at some galleries that you really like and like support their programming. And you can connect with them. Like, I don't mean just like go to all their shows and then like leave. Like talking to gallery staff that's in the front is really simple.
mm,
Maybe don't come in and introduce yourself as an artist that's looking to leave your current gallery. That is the opposite of what you should do. But like, yeah, like meet the person at the front and like learn their name. Oh,
yeah.
and I have a great trick for that actually, for remembering
You
names. Did I tell you
really
about this
okay?
ever?
No, no.
Yeah. So you're like, you walk up to a gallery and you're just like, hi, love the show. Congrats on like a, yeah, like a great exhibition. My name is so and so. What's yours? And then they say it's Cindy, right? Take your foot, literally draw it on the floor, like spell it out on the floor. No one can see your feet, and it helps so much. I've told so many people this trick. And if you can remember that front person's name, like they'll remember you the next time you come in. Don't be like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
No, no. It does matter to people when you remember them. I mean, it matters to me when people remember me. So I totally
yeah.
get that. So like, let's say you're still gallery director and you are like, let's say, but I guess more at like a medium tier place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you got a new artist. What are some of the strategies that galleries use to sort of get the word out about the artist? How do you raise someone's profile, right? Like
Oh, like
for
to
example,
test drive an artist, for example, or like
well,
see.
like I would say I would imagine Tita Whitney's work is selling much more now than it
Hmm.
did when she was doing artist run stuff like that she
Yeah,
referenced in that episode, right? So like
right.
I'm so glad I sent you that episode because this is such a good framework.
It's a great
But
episode.
thank you. So like, what happens between her
Mm.
first getting opportunities? Like, what do people do to build someone's profile? Is it all just buzz? Is it all just like, um, you know, galleries investing the time almost validates you, or are there actual steps that a gallery takes to make your work more valuable?
There are specific steps, like
Okay.
and this is like not like specific across all guys, but across most, generally speaking, yes. So like usually like when a gallery is considering representing somebody, just considering this happens actually before representation, not
Mm,
after. They'll do things like put a piece up in their office, right? Because that's
mm,
where the space where they take the collectors that they know well that have supported the gallery for years and just test drive it, or don't even do that and they just sort of like get access to some pieces, not all,
mm,
before like prior to representation. Put them in group shows is like another way.
yeah.
It's like just seeing how it does with your collector base as a gallery. Because then you actually have data on like how it performs with your network that makes it
Okay.
more safe to offer them representation, which is a lot
Yeah.
more work, after. So that's some of it. Yeah, actually, that's like a lot of it. I mean,
Th-
I've heard so many gallerists say that like this like man, I would have loved to represent that person, but just between you and me, like I just couldn't get anyone except for the one person that's like been buying from my gallery for the past 30 years and just buys anything I tell them to. Like
yeah.
and also is it generating new business? That's something else they're looking for. You know,
So that goes into the network that you bring too. in that list that you were saying
Yeah,
earlier. Like if
and
you if go
yeah.
ahead.
No, not
Go
that
ahead.
it's like the artist's responsibility. And it's like I want to be really clear about this. Like your responsibility as an artist is to make the work, right? Like like I don't want artists to think that they have to have this like network of sales, right? Because the reason that you sign on with the gallery in the first place is because you were not a business person and you just want to make what you make. But
Mhm.
you know, like what I'm talking about here with is like the gallery that is considering representing you or chooses to represent you. If there's not like a an influx of new clients, you know, that having you under their roster brings, like organically, like all, like a bunch of people like reaching out, that yeah, then it's less likely that you're going to get as much attention as other artists that do have that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it all depends at that point on the gallerist. Like maybe they try and push your work in a different direction, or maybe they have to push harder in other areas. But like that's assigned to galleries. Like I know, like whether it's happening or not. Like
Is there
is
any
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Is
No,
there
it's like the
anything
basis for oh yeah, is the basis for like how much harder they work
yeah, on you.
to on you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um is there anything that artists you think can do to sort of bring that new traffic? Because it sounds like you're also talking about interest in terms of sales, right? So
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
so then it sounds like basically one of the stronger things you can have is have a record of selling before you start going to the space.
Well, yes.
At
Yeah. You know.
at the
Yeah.
price point, maybe not, you know.
Price point, like not so much, but like the like interest level. I mean, like what artists can do, I think. So just yeah. So to clarify your question, you're like,
Yeah, yeah.
what can artists do
To sort
to
of
set
to
themselves up the best way for this to
yeah,
go well?
for when they when
Yeah.
that starts happening. Obviously they don't have control over whether the gallery is going
Mm,
to the collectors in the space that visit that office and see the
yeah.
piece. Do you have don't have control over that part. But
Right.
you mentioned the new interest and all of that. Like how that seems like within the control of an
Like
artist.
how's that? Yeah.
Yeah, what could somebody do to do that?
Well, I
Uh
think in terms of like generate, I mean, like this is a really funny me saying it because I am not. I mean, I'm on Instagram, but I haven't like really posted anything. It's not how I do things. But
I
I think
know.
Instagram is a great resource for
Okay.
artists and for you know businesses in general, which is what this is. Right? We talked about that, right? Like you are sort of
Yeah.
business with your gallery, like in service of your career. So like, um, so for example, when people reach out to you via like if they DM you on your Instagram as an artist, you know, like respond,
Yeah.
like you know if someone's like I love your work, like a lot of collectors is something that I want people to know about, like collectors too, like they're very like the wealthier you are, like the more people are going to be like the more suspicious you become over
Uh
time of everybody just wanting a piece of your money because that is these people's literal experiences of their lives, and
for
it becomes
sure.
exhausting. And so if you there's like a couple tips on how to talk to people like that. Like first of all, they won't identify themselves as collectors. You just have to sort of be open. You know, if someone says they want to come by your studio, say yes. You
Yeah.
know, don't let them stay for 5 hours, but like you know like say that you have an appointment at a certain time about an hour later, you know, like be receptive to that. Like that, like Instagram is a great resource for this in that way.
Okay.
And you know, like unless you have an agreement already with a gallery, like in the space, maybe like when you're discussing representation or like after, you can talk to your gallery about this, right? Like what's what's the exclusivity thing
Yeah, yeah.
here, you know what I mean? Like that's really important to be upfront with your gallery about that. And yeah, like sell something out of your studio, like be flexible with people, like on price. Like if somebody wants to DM you and then wants to come by the studio and you invited them and like you want to like make some sales, like go ahead and do it, and, you know, but like maybe don't sell 10 of your paintings to them, sell two,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Okay.
Yeah, like stuff like that. But also like just like yeah, like I think like that is a way. Also, like if there's like trading artworks too with other artists is a great way to sort of like generate like a following. Like Jonas Wood is like an amazing example like of this. Like Jonas is a big champion of other artists, you know, not
Yeah.
everyone's like that, but he really is. And like he really is just like he's so excited about this stuff being made, you know. He like when like back in the day before he was the Jonas Wood of Jonas Wood, like he would like, you know, he would like trade with people, and like also like when he had some money, he would start he bought other people's work. Like, if you can, if when you have some money coming in, like go and support other artists. Like the like artist networks like with other artists, I think are some of the most powerful things in the art world that like aren't like a lot of like young, newly represented people don't realize like how much power your group has and how much you have as an individual in this way. So like,
Yeah.
you know, like you're literally getting an opportunity if you trade your work with somebody to be seen by whoever enters their studio. You could
Yeah.
do a deal like this is going to be on my left side wall, and I'm going to you just put this on your left side wall for a week. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
really direct about it because neither of you have to do any work, and you're doubling your chances of getting seen by somebody that will want to come and represent you, or a
Yeah.
client, or anybody. Like that's like an amazing strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, the be direct thing I think has been something that I've found to be very true just with people in general. Like at first, I used to be very timid about asking people things of people beyond just being on the show, but
Mm.
I think it is really good because it sort of clears up stuff. And then sometimes people tell you like, no, I'm not willing to do that, and at least you've asked. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
unprofessional in communicating what your expectations are professionally, and then like just being turned down, like that also,
Absolutely.
yeah, like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
think this is gonna work for me. It's totally fine,
Or we don't do that, or yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I once asked to drop $80,000 cash off in a bag because the client told me to do it at a very well known gallery, like a blue chip
uh
gallery. And I was like, well, fuck it. If I don't ask, I won't know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like, like,
And
and
it's
I'm,
pretty hard to say no to cash.
well, yeah, no, and they in fact did. They're like, we don't do things like that. And I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. And they were like, why are you embarrassed?
You're
like
offering us
how would
cash.
you have known
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what? And I was like,
yeah,
oh, I was like, this is like, it was sort of like a big like moment in my career for me. I was like, I'm not, this is so silly. I've made all this up, like the
yeah,
things I think I'm not supposed to do. And like, I mean, I'm a direct person, so are you. That's one of the reasons for like we connect so easily, I think. And like
yeah,
I want
yeah,
everyone
no.
to ask me what they're thinking, actually.
Well, I
Yeah.
think just knowing you all this time, because I knew you before you were art advising, and just
Yeah.
and just knowing how you function, I'd like know that you know all this stuff because you asked, which is literally what I
Yeah.
do on the podcast too. So
Yeah.
and then sometimes my frustration with that system is that I always feel like I don't have the question sometimes, or I
Mm.
always feel sometimes. No, sometimes I feel like I'm not well informed to ask a good enough question, which is why I end the
Yeah.
show with I usually end the show with the same question: is like, did I ask you anything? Is there anything you want to say that I couldn't access with my questions that you have
Ah.
inside you? But I think I still have a little bit of questions like, what do you like? I know you can't speak outside of your experience, so I guess like if you have an art advisor that is interested in
Mm.
your work, that's a big deal, right? Like, because that means that person is motivated by purchasing
Yeah.
power. They're not there to give you a show. They're there to cut through all that
Right.
bullshit and
Or to talk
just,
about like abstract painting, like philosophy,
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, I
You
am,
know,
but like, yeah, not for that purpose. Yeah.
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 So like what makes it smooth for you? What makes you
Hmm.
like the professional points, not the work, not any of that,
Right.
just like
Yeah.
what makes you feel comfortable going to the studio? What is like how
Yeah.
should you host an art advisor when they come?
Right. Okay. Well, like a big thing is like ease of communication in the beginning. So like as an art advisor, like being precise about like my time because I have choices, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all like all of us like whatever like you have choices that are based on like actual needs, like you were saying, from
Mm,
collections that could like literally like, pay for painting. We want to buy paintings. That's what we want. Um,
100%. Yeah.
so like being precise about your time, like so I dedicate, for example, most Wednesdays, since it's January, I've gotten like a lot more streamlined about it. Like so most Wednesdays, like I can do any number of studio visits, but that's my dedicated day. And so that means that if I am showing up at your studio, or if I'm interested in it, like that means that I'm choosing to see your studio instead of others, right? Right. We have to like make a list. And so like
Mm,
if you keep that in mind, it's very unlikely that you will offend me or other advisors. And the way that you would not do that is just being really like, just get back to us right away. So via text message, via Instagram, like whatever it is, like I'm available Wednesday at this time. I want to hear back in in 24 hours, like within
Yeah,
that
yeah,
span. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like that's just
Minimum,
like,
yeah,
because like it doesn't even matter like how good your work is or really how much a client wants it. Like if it's not on my schedule, like I will just slide somebody into that slot. So that's
yeah,
like something, you know what I mean? Um, and another thing is like just be timely about it, you know, answer your door. This is like very basic. No. Yeah. Oh, and a great tip is like have water. So like
yeah,
I don't mean like grapefruit Perrier. I mean like water. Like it could be from the tap. Like I've been actually to a lot of like an alarming number of studios where someone's like, "There's no water here," and I'm so thirsty.
yeah.
I have to leave probably earlier than I want to because so that's like a big one. It's very simple. It doesn't have
No,
yeah,
no.
just like
It's
have
always the
cups and have
simple
water.
things. It's always
Yeah,
the simple things that you overlook.
yeah,
So I mean that's pretty straightforward. So just basically respect the person's time, which is
absolutely.
like it's baffling. I'm starting to
Yeah.
get into a place where I can like interview like maybe a little bit more professional people or like
Hmm.
people that have more professional experience, and you would be surprised how much more professional successful people are.
Yeah, in these very basic ways. Yeah. And
Yeah,
then
and it,
yeah. And
go ahead.
Orthodox like thing I would like to mention that I've gotten asked rarely, but I really appreciate it when it happens. And I always like go back to these artists like because of this. Like very few people I'm there to talk about their work, right? I'm there to
Mm,
understand how their process works, how their practice works, like all this stuff. So like the bulk of the conversation needs to be about them. But there are a few artists that have asked me, you know, they actually seem genuinely curious in who I'm looking for, right? Like my clients. You know, I don't expect
mm,
like this like weird like sort of like over interest in it, but like an artist that thinks that way is really impressive to me because they're what it means is that they are already thinking about what types of collections they want to be in, you know,
nice. Yeah.
which is like a really like slick move. And also I feel like you should care, right? Because like in an initial studio visit, like I've maybe met you once before, three times before, we've seen each other in passing 10 times, but we don't know each other and we don't know the work. And like you should be interviewing me sort of as much as at these collections, in a
Yeah,
sense,
yeah.
as much as like I'm looking at your stuff. Like this sort of attitude, like that. I think a lot of artists wind up in this position where they think that if they build it, no one's probably ever going to come kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, you know, they're like, oh my God, a gallery wants to represent my work. And oh my God, there's like an advisor here. But like they forget that the reason that any of that is happening is because their work is really special
Yeah.
and they have demands to make. You know what I mean? And like it always impresses me when an artist is able to like, you know, is discerning about this and they're not going to take any opportunity because any opportunity are just like not asking me like where is this going by the way, you
Yeah, yeah.
know, or like what's
Yeah.
like tell me more about your client, like how did you know like that sort of interest is reassuring to me and something that protects them and their careers.
It's probably it sounds like you what you pick up from that kind of line of questioning is a literacy that makes it refreshing because you maybe won't
Mm,
have to hold their hand and as much because they're yeah.
yeah, or showing
What's
care, like
they're
yeah,
showing
just
care.
briefly they're showing care about like where they want things to go. They're showing that they
Yeah.
understand their power, you
And if
know.
you're investing in them, it you want them to be savvy about it, right? Like you don't want them to just like because they could get somebody else that's not a great collector in the collection, and then that affects
Yes,
your the valuation of your piece, right? Does that make sense? Is that
it affects the collections that I'm advising. The artists that are less careful about like where that goes, you know,
yeah,
and it's fine. Like all some every artist has a different sort of relationship with this, right? Some artists care deeply and monitor obsessively, right?
mm.
Like what collections their work goes into, and like
Yeah,
and that works for them, you know, or sometimes it doesn't work for them, but like that is sort of an extra layer of protection. So I'm worried about it's all about understanding motivations, right? Like
yeah,
my concern when I'm looking at pieces, like I'm not going for myself. I hope to in the future a lot more, but right now, yeah, I'm like working. I'm in the service of these collections, right? And so, like, if that artist is concerned about what collections they're going to, that means that they're less likely to put their art in random places without making their own choices, which means that it's a much more secure investment for my
yeah.
client, and that's what takes precedence for me. You know,
Interesting.
even like I mean I don't not to say that I would ever dismiss someone whose work is amazing and my client loves because they didn't do this,
Yeah.
but it's a major thing
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you can do as an artist
No,
that
it's
really,
a
yeah.
that's a hot tip. Um, yeah, I feel like I could keep going, but I feel like we're at a good place, and maybe I can have you back on. Um, do
Sure.
you have anything that I have not been able to access in your
Actually,
brain?
before this conversation, I made lists,
Oh,
things I
okay.
want artists to know and things I want, like about collectors and also about like the gallery. Do you mind if I just check over them real
Yeah,
quick
yeah,
and
go
see
for
if
it.
we
Go
missed
for it.
anything? Okay, let's see.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh yeah, no, of course. Like I heard, yeah. I mean, I love your podcast. I'm gonna do a good
Thank
job.
you.
This is like a great opportunity. Let's see. Um, your questions are like really on point because you actually
Thanks.
like individually addressed like a lot of these things that I wanted to say without seeing this list at all. Okay. Um, God, this is actually nuts. Yeah, we covered it. That's kind of
All right,
crazy.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, then, is there any last tip that you got for artists? Like anything that, uh, it can be as trite as like just be sincere in your work. But any last thing? If not, I can just cut this part out and we can go straight to the.
I've got a last thing actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I might have like said this like to some extent, but I really like if I want to drive anything home, it's like maybe just to remember that like the art world is a small network made up of people, and you are also a person, and like the best way to relate to people in positions of like high power in the art world, whether it's a gallery or a client or an advisor or even the press or anything, is just to come from that space, you know like come from the basic thing and like be curious, and like you can't basically be an artist without having an imagination. So
Uh
like
huh.
use your imagination when you talk to people, and just be curious about them.
Yeah.
Like a way that I've seen like a lot of like artists just put people off when they already liked their work and wanted to buy it, for example, it was like literally just talking about themselves the whole time.
Oh
Like these
yeah,
are
yeah,
humans, and like like engage with them, and like it's because it's for the most part, like any industry, there are like a lot of just like shitty people, but most of them are fantastic people, and
yeah,
like like maybe like not letting the power hierarchy like freak you out so much. Like pretend people
yeah.
you're your cousin. I do that all the time. I literally convince myself in my head when I'm intimidated by somebody that they are my cousin,
Oh wow,
and it
that's a good
actually has
tip.
opened up like a lot of conversations and like relatability, without literally going over and like picking them up and like shaking them around like you've met your cousin, like maybe like refrain physically, but like the openness, right? People would respond to that, and a lot of people are tired of sort of like the ponytail flipping austerity that the
Yeah,
art world has been branded with. Like nobody actually likes that, so just pretend
yeah.
everyone's your cousin.
No, that's a good tip. Well, I mean, just there's a couple things that I've noticed is like, and I just haven't brought it up, but there's a lot of parallels between cars and like the car market.
Yeah,
It's funny because especially the auctions, the auction level about it. Um, but yeah, and like going off of that, it sounds like like one of the things in sales, you can't sell somebody unless you ask them questions, right? Because
oh god, no,
you don't
yeah,
know what their needs are. Like even when I was
right,
selling guitars, like what do you want? Like you need
right,
questions like what's your price point? What kind of music do you want to play? All of these
yeah,
different things. So there's definitely a lot of information that not only can help them feel validated, but there's like valuable stuff to ask. You like not to say
totally.
that you ask with the salesman hat in mind, but like getting to know somebody from that exchange, you get
Yeah,
information that is going to help you down the line. So
that's
it's
such a good
not
point.
yeah, it's like I one of the things that Tita said was that like she's a business person, and I think that a lot of artists struggle with that
Right.
aspect of it, that you are a business person, and so I really think that that's actually a really good tip. Like that's, I mean, that's basic networking. Does it just but yeah,
Yeah.
but the point of somebody that can do something for you instead of being intimidated by them, get to know them.
Right.
Like they're a human being, and they
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Right. Like they actually appreciate that just as much as you would, right? Like
Yeah,
artists don't want to be seen as commodities, and neither do collectors or
yeah.
gallerists or like any of these people. Yeah. And just
That's what
familiarity. Like a good question is, how is your day? Or
Yeah.
what do you think of this painting? It's not even yours. You know, like going to
Yeah.
like a gallery. Like I've actually like met so many amazing people by asking that question. Like it's
Yeah.
very basic, and like I'm not trying to make it like be like you know, you should start just adoring small talk. But like these are like, you know, these are like actual questions, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
or like, you know, like what are you buying lately? You know, which might be perceived as rude in some circles, but like people fucking love to talk about what they just got.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, as an artist, maybe don't talk like a mistake I see artists make. I'll throw this in at the end real quick. Anyways, is like that I really wish that they would stop doing. And I get it, but like just stop. Is like you see this like opportunity, like this like finite period of time that you're in front of this person, this gallerist, this person that knows this gallerist, this collector, whatever, and you just can't stop talking about yourself. Like my
Yeah.
studio practice, me this, me that.
Yeah.
Like it just comes off completely the wrong way. It
Yeah.
doesn't come off as like, you know, this industrious, like prolific person that's just like
Yeah.
loves their art. It's just like no, like just talk to them and like don't like just stop. These people are like in higher positions of power, meaning wealth or like galleries, whatever. They know exactly their life is like they get whatever they want when they ask for it. If
Yeah.
they're not asking, like if somebody wants to come to your studio, they will ask for it,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
just let them ask because
Yeah.
people like to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. And you know, going back to the sales analogy, like people, you know, people are put off when they feel like you're trying to sell them something. But if they feel like you're trying to solve a problem for them, maybe this in this case it's not necessarily the thing. I guess in this case, solving the problem for them would just be the problem of being bored, you know, and
Or
having a nice
lonely
or
or
lonely or
like,
having a nice
yeah.
conversation. But yeah, yeah, no, I think that's really great. Well, thank you so much. You
Thanks,
don't have an
Xavier.
Oh, dude, you know you're one of my favorite people,
This
especially
has
in the
been the
art
best
world.
time. Yeah. We should do
Yeah,
this like every week, whether we like record it or not.
I'm gonna get some stuff together and put and then we'll do a studio visit. Or, you
I
know,
would love that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what's it called? Yeah, anything that we can promote for you or any you know, I know that you may or may not have stuff. So,
Well, I'm going to be starting like a new like publishing company later this year.
oh, what's it gonna be
Um,
called? Do you have a name for it yet?
Felt. Yeah.
Felt. Okay.
Felt, as in the feeling and not the fabric. Yeah. But no, actually, I would like to plug somebody else if you don't mind.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
yeah. So Glenn Goldberg, like I'm convinced he's like one of the most like important painter, like contemporary like painters like today. Has this amazing booth, like solo booth, opening up tomorrow at the Independent Fair, which
Okay.
by the time there's like everything like won't be
No,
available, but it will
but
be up for a little while. And like also look up this guy's work because like I basically have seen this like series that he's been building for the past 2 years. I go in almost every week, and you know there are sales, but like I don't necessarily have to be there that often. But I need to see these paintings, and I just want other people to see them.
cool,
And I
cool.
will give you his Instagram handles if you want to
Yeah,
maybe
for
post it
sure,
in the
for
show
sure.
notes because I just want you and everybody else to see these
Well,
paintings. They're
what
incredible.
say his Instagram handle now? Do you have it or no?
I think it's either at Glenn. No, I don't.
Okay.
But I can do,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Should I look it
Um,
up? Here.
it's okay. I mean, oh yeah,
Got it.
do look
Yeah.
it up.
Okay.
Look it up. Look it up.
We're too different, deferential to each other. This is funny.
Yeah, we're like
Yeah.
we're
I was
both
like,
people pleasers.
yeah. I know. One of us needs to be like just like up the asshole tile a little bit. Yeah. Here, I'll tell you right now. Ah, okay. Glenn, Glenn, and spelled the usual way. Goldberg, Goldberg. That's the Instagram handle.
So yeah, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you for schooling me. I know that after this, I'm gonna have like so many. I've taken the 101, and now I'm
Mhm.
gonna want to take the 102. So,
Yeah.
so thank you
I'm
so
gonna think of
much.
stuff too. Yeah.
And you've suggested me having collectors on the show, which would also be
Yeah.
fascinating.
No,
So
let's bring them
if
on.
yeah, yeah. So I would definitely
Totally.
like that. We're trying to get cover as many angles of the art world as possible, and I think that your job is like a really important one because it sounds like
Nice.
you are the brokers that basically get access to these spaces so that you can you know, so that people can actually have relationships. Because like I mean, I guess it would be overwhelming to just have all the billionaires or millionaires like messaging you, and then maybe they don't have the graces of art.
But I mean, I'll just say, like people like no one has braces when they're in certain moods. Nobody at any income scale, right? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, no,
yeah.
but I'm just saying that you know the lingo. You know how to ask in a way that's not going to be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, that's like you know the proper verbiage to make people feel at ease because you've got, like
Oh,
if you're a stockbroker or a hedge fund manager, I'm sure
there's
that
other
professional emails are different than the ones that they get at art galleries, right?
totally. Actually, what I've
Yeah.
learned is just be quiet. Actually, like sometimes the best possible thing you can do, I think this like more and more, like is just shut up. Just shut up and listen. No, really. Like if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
ever wondering what to do, like you're just like man, like that's what people want. Just but actually listen to people.
Yeah.
You know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll be back. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week with another guest and another topic. If you guys go ahead, enjoyed this conversation, go ahead and like and subscribe. Rate us on podcast platforms 5 stars, whichever one you listen to us on. And we'll be back next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Javier.
Yay, we're
Yay.
done. All
I was
right.
like, is
Let
there
me.
like a big flash that happens at the end? Yeah, that was fun.